Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phoenix 3, our first session. And it feels good to be back teaching with you. I don't know how it is with where you are, but where I am, it is so hot. So you might hear my air conditioner in the background, but so what? Phoenix 3 for me is the exciting class because now in teaching about transformation, we get to talk about you and how all the events that are transpiring in these last decades, how transformation is working its way into you, in how it speaks to you within yourself, in the kind of the subtle reaches of your soul. I thought I would start. I love the big picture, so I'm going to jump in through the big picture and begin with reminding everybody kind of that, you hear that life is this journey of transformation and all of these words that I've heard for years and years, even way back as a publisher, and books would come in on transformation and talking about this time that we're living in and etc. But in these past years, and combined with how my life changed because of my occupation as a medical intuitive, and how that transformed me, my own journey, all the little things that, not so little, that came together. And now this moment that we're living, I am of the mind now that I think we're living a much bigger, extraordinary journey than we're capable of actually comprehending. I think something of an epoch-size event is happening that none of us will live to see the end of, but we certainly are seeing the beginning. And it's so typical of human beings to say, when is this going to end? And it's not. This is the beginning of a very different relationship to life, to how we relate, to how we understand relationship, to how we grapple with nature, to how we understand our relationship to each other, to how we understand what we're doing here, and what the value of life is, and what the purpose of life is, and what we do with the investment of a human life. What is transformation about? Transformation is about transforming how you understand the nature of life, and how that shift in the understanding of that fundamental question changes you, and then what you do about that shift, and how that changes how you approach your life, the lives of others, the decisions you make, the questions you dwell in, the questions you ask yourself. This moment, this time that we are living in, it is fair to say that life has always been a journey. That's true. And that because of that, it has always been a journey of transformation. There's never been a time when we can talk from a historical point of view where societies have not been moving from one quality of life to the next quality of life to the next. So it has always been a transformational journey. And yet the ingredients that are present in this moment, every now and again, there are events that happen, or discoveries that happen that elevate the consciousness of human beings or change the quality of the journey. The discovery of penicillin, the discovery of quinine. I mean, that made malaria. People could survive malaria. Penicillin, people could survive all kinds of diseases. I mean, there were certain discoveries that made the life journey, that transformed the life journey at a certain level. The discovery of nuclear weapons transformed the life journey in a different way, And it made the journey of survival doubtful. It made the journey of human survival dependent upon whether we transformed ourselves and became incapable of using the weapons of destruction that we had created. It was the first time ever that humanity faced the challenge of having to transform itself for having fallen so far in afield from the core value of life, which is the maintenance of life, and the dictate from the sacred realm, which is to caretake life and to survive and to thrive. That is, from a mystical perspective, from a mystical lens, shall we say, gives me the position why I am convinced there is this urgency for like a no turning back pressure that's just getting applied to the human experience, that we must become a more conscious species. Whether the economy collapses or the pandemic or the combination of forces that are all converging upon it, it is this awakening of the self that is at stake. What is transformation about? It's about considering anew what is the purpose of life. Why do I make the choices I do? What shall motivate me in the brief years that I have on this earth? Is this a journey for taking and storing and then what? Or is this a journey where I do what I can to benefit the quality of life for how many people that I can for as long as I am here? How shall I understand this place that I live and how I work and how I'm built and what the governing system is? So life has always been this journey of transformation, but never before have the forces come together quite with the same urgency that they are now. And the fact that you're alive now, the fact that you're a participant in this, the fact that you are someone whose life is involved in this extraordinary moment is enough for you to say, to recognize, I'm involved in this journey of transformation. And I can't, the part of me that is such a devotee of history, what I would not give to be able to go forward in time and look back at this time. Look back and see how historians write about this time. See how they write about the way in which we navigate these waters that we are going through now, and the way in which we interpret our challenges, the way the decisions we make when faced with climate change, when faced with the forces that pandemics, when faced with what is arising, and how we decide to interpret what's happening to us, how we decide to see it, how we decide to face it as a global village or independent nations, or how we decide what could have been the decisions, how things would be different if in fact we decided to face it as a collective versus independent. How would your body heal if in fact you were ill and all your vital systems did not participate in the healing of it? How fast would you heal? How well would you heal? How seriously would you heal if in fact half your organs said, I'm not participating in that, I'm not going to help you out? If your heart said, sorry, I'm not going to beat any kind of increase, I'm just going to slow down here. If your blood pressure went awry, if your body did not respond as one collective life force system. That's what the earth is, one collective life force system. That's what we can't seem to get. What's transformation about? It's about getting that and letting go of this idea that every organ in our body, every country on our earth, is sovereign. It's not. It's not. If we took ourselves off the earth and we looked from above, we wouldn't see any borders. We'd just see land masses. If we were in a spacecraft looking down at this blue marble called Earth, we would see land masses and aquatic areas, but we wouldn't see little borders. We would just see these land masses and aquatic air and maybe snow areas in the South Pole and the North Pole. But we wouldn't see, well, there's the border of Montenegro and there's the border of this and you wouldn't see any of that. You couldn't. You would simply see these land masses and it would look like one huge blue marble that operates as one system, one huge system. That was the mystical vision that Edgar Mitchell had, the astronaut, when he was in space, and he got it. He got that this was one huge living organism, not meant to be cut apart and separated and one area bombed and one not. He got it. And so he lived the rest of his life devoted to teaching that vision. So what is transformation about? It's becoming capable of grappling with these much greater mystical truths and living them, and pulling out of ourselves those lesser illusions, as Buddha would say, that are not truth, and that cause us to think and live in this world of distraction. When I would say to somebody, well, what needs to get transformed in me? Just start with this. Consider this, that we think that everything in our physical world is solid. We think that everything in our physical world that you touch is solid matter, that you're standing on something solid, that you're holding something solid, that everything in your physical world is solid. And yet that's the illusion. That's the illusion. And so the truth is, and now this is where I think it gets fun. Okay. The truth is now that everything is in constant motion. Now, this is where, I'm going to remind you of my building image that I use. That, on the first floor, it's the physical world where everything looks solid. So if you're on your first floor, everything looks like the same world that we share. So you see my desk and it looks like this, and the physical world, and the first floor is the world of where your street is, and it's the physical, what looks like physical reality. But then every time you go up in a building to the next floor, you see the same neighborhood. You see yourself, the neighborhood of your life, but from a much higher perspective. Your view of your own life expands every time you go up a floor. And so for those of you who haven't been with me before, I need to explain this because I refer to this drawing all the time, this analogy all the time, and this metaphor, that in using the building is like your life, and your consciousness is inside. So once you're born, you are this building. And every time all the movement that happens once you're born is within you, all the significant movement. So it's like when you are in this building, every time you move up a floor, it's going to be more expensive. Every time you move up a floor of consciousness, it's more expensive. Every time you transform, every time you get something, another truth, it's going to cost you something. You're going to leave behind a world that was once very familiar to you, and you're going to move on to something that's new but very expansive and absolutely fascinating. But you move up, and every time you move up, you have to work harder to stay at that altitude because the rent or the mortgage is more expensive. So it takes a lot more effort to maintain that altitude in yourself. It takes a lot of effort to stay at that altitude. But what you'll notice when you're at that altitude is that the air is cleaner. It's more tranquil. The view is more spectacular. You can see for miles. You don't hear the ground clutter noise at all as much, if at all. So when you're finally at that altitude, when you finally get into that unit that's on the 30th floor, it's worth all the hard work because you really feel like, wow, I can relax. I don't feel all the tension from the physical world. So working your way up to that level in yourself is worth it. It's worth all the effort you have to put into it. But it's very, very challenging. So, in the physical world, on the first floor, it's very difficult to comprehend when someone says, everything is changing faster, even the physical world, even something that you think is solid is not. That doesn't make sense. But you know what's happening to us? And this is how transformation is happening within you. I'll give you an example. Well, I'm going to back it up like this. In Phoenix 1, we looked at how the cycles of transformation unfolded in a society, in our world, through the revolutions, the changes in our society in general. And you can observe changes taking place, and you can observe transformation taking place, and you can see the changes out there. But out there doesn't mean that you think they're happening. You still think that they're controllable. You still think you can control the changes happening when you're looking at them out there. You don't think that you are a participant in those changes. You're still in the illusion that somehow you're here and what's happening out there is out there, and you're not a part of that. You're not a part of that. That's a very classic first floor illusion, that I'm not a part of events if I'm not at the event. If I'm not at the event, then the event has nothing to do with me. Because that's the illusion of time and space and geography and our physical form. That if my form is not at something, then I wasn't there. How's that for something to think about? It doesn't occur to you that you might energetically be there, because that's a truth for a much higher floor. For a much higher floor. That's a more mystical perspective. That's mystical truth. But most of us operate on the reality, certainly the law, that if your body wasn't there, you weren't there. It doesn't occur to you to think, but was I energetically there? Let me think. Now let me just take you in this a little deeper. Now I know if you were in my classroom right now, you'd have your hands up with a lot of questions, so I'll get to them if I can, because I'm going to try and think the way you would if you were asking, if you were in my classroom. When I do a reading on you, what do I track? I track where you are energetically. Now, all of you know that you are attached to something in your past that you have an energetic attachment to. Is it right? Right. Look, all of you nod your head. Of course, that's right. So you know that if you have an issue with someone, a trauma, a this or that, right? You have an attachment to that place, that person, that thing, that memory. Right? Right. What is the means through which you are attached? What is it? I could use the word circuit, energy, but does it occur to you that that's a real thing? That means that you really are attaching a circuit of yourself and an energetic part of yourself to a dimension called that, a memory, a place that still has an essence of you attached to it. Have you ever grabbed an object and thought, I don't like the way this feels. It feels funny to me. It feels funny to me. It has somebody's energy in it, and I don't like it. I'm incredibly sensitive to that, and I don't consider myself one of those hypersensitive intuitives, because hypersensitivity does not suit my personality. I mean, I'm not a hypersensitive personality, but my psychic field is incredibly hypersensitive. And I have to tell you, it drives me crazy because it doesn't suit my nature. But I am incredibly sensitive to the energetics in things. And like clothes someone has worn, I can't wear clothes people have worn. I can feel it. I can walk into a room. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked into rooms. I have felt someone's died in this room, and the blah, 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 all that stuff. Or arguments. I can hear the arguments they've had. And my point is this, that the energetics of that, of us, remain. That the energetics of us are very much present. Just like and so based on that, to assume that you are not energetically participating in the creation of events just because your body's not there is very erroneous. Very erroneous. I've done readings on people, and I've said to them, where's the rest of you? I mean, where's the rest of you? You cannot imagine how important this is for you to get, really. And I'm going to hit the pause button here, and I'm going to remind you, what is transformation about? Transformation is about transforming what you thought was one way to a more open, wider lens on what reality is. You used to think this, and now you think that. It's like going from believing the world was flat to suddenly thinking, oh my gosh, it's round. What was I thinking? And you contact your cartographer and say, get rid of these maps. I need a globe. And get rid of the flat ones. I need a round globe, something with a little latitude and longitude action. And I need a little of this. I need a little of that. Get me a compass that works. You transform yourself. This is what's happening. We are transforming ourselves into energetic creatures capable of comprehending the whole of ourselves in terms of our energetic nature and our energetic health and our energetic consciousness, which includes being able to even grapple with the very real probability that just because I am not physically someplace doesn't mean I'm not energetically there. If I can read you in the back from your someplace you have been and say, you know what, you're losing power here because this happened and that happened and this happened, then I will tell you that when you are losing power to an issue or to a fear or a person, the way you need to think now is to get that, oh my God, I'm actually losing power to this situation. My energetic body is actually hemorrhaging. This is actually costing me my energy right now. You know what it is to have that experience in the past. Now you need to start thinking in terms of managing yourself so that you recognize my energetic body is missing. I'm hemorrhaging. I'm not fully present. I've said to people in workshops, where are you other than here right now? Where are you? Go, where are your fragments? Where are you? This is such a huge, great, big, huge thing that we are talking about. When I talk about transformation and holism, becoming whole and co-creation, which is what this time is about,